It is not an illusion created by the imagination. Rather, it is a dream, and it would be better to think of it as a recap of the previous day. The protagonist had been fighting his opponent and easily dodged its attacks because the opponent was too slow, making our boy curious whether it was a snake or a maggot. However, negligence had always been a problem for our boy. The opponent, who looked like a snake, managed to crawl up and strike him in the face, sending him flying. This caused our boy's armor, which was worth as much as a spaceship, to break. Our boy, now furious, jumped at the snake and started punching its face repeatedly to defeat it. In the heat of anger, fighting always comes first. However, what our boy enjoys the most is swordplay and swordsmanship, especially with magic. He continued striking at the snake using his sword, eventually taking it down. But as he landed, he realized he had placed his foot in the wrong spot, causing him to fall into a pit and pass out. When he finally opened his eyes, he found himself in a room. Our boy's eyes fall on the silhouette of a beautiful lady who is trying to wake him up. He notices that she has gorgeous silver hair, which, according to him, is quite normal. There are always one or two beautiful women who follow the strongest warrior in the universe. Feeling sleepy and weak, our boy assumes these are the after effects of his intense battle with the snake. As the silver-haired woman moves closer, he notices that she gives off a flowery scent, which he finds quite pleasant. When he fully opens his eyes, he sees the woman's face and finds her to be very pretty. At that moment, our boy realizes he is now a little baby who can't stop crying. This leads the silver-haired woman to conclude that her baby, named Arel, is hungry. Little does she know that her baby is crying because he has once again been reincarnated. This is because of a secret our boy holds. It is not uncommon for the protagonist, Arel, to be reincarnated into his past lives, which makes him a bit different from other reincarnated people. Unlike others, our boy can count the exact number of times he has been reincarnated, and this time marks his 101st life as a baby. If Arel's memory serves him correctly, he vividly remembers that his first life was as a Korean, born in Heljoseon, where he lived as an ordinary young man, constantly worried about employment, an existence he describes as never truly happy. Our boy was very surprised the first time he reincarnated after dying in a car accident in that life. When he woke up, he had suddenly become a baby, opening his eyes in a church surrounded by foreigners, speaking a language he did not understand. From then on, our boy continued to reincarnate again and again, taking on different identities, including a space warrior, a Murim leader, a fully fledged knight, and even a secret agent. What surprised him even more was the fact that every time our boy died, he did not reincarnate in the same world. Thanks to this, he could proudly claim that he had experienced all kinds of lives across various genres, which allowed him to become fully accustomed to being reincarnated. This time, Arel is unfazed by the experience and begins observing his surroundings. After examining the style of the furniture and the interior of the room, he concludes that he is in a medieval era. Moreover, as an expert in reincarnations by now, Arel determines that this place does not resemble the Middle Ages of Earth, leading him to conclude that it must be a fantasy world. Our boy personally thinks that the science fiction world was the best, as it was the easiest place to live, clean and advanced in many ways. However, he still believes this world is far better since it is an environment where one can at least afford to hire a lady-in-waiting. After processing all this new information, our boy concludes that he is in a modest upper-class family within this fantasy world. The most fortunate thing for our boy in this life is that his mother loves him dearly. Arel can feel her love through her kisses and the way her hands wrap tightly around him as she gazes at him with warm, caring eyes. Having met many mothers in his previous lives, our boy has learned that maternal love is not something to be taken for granted. There were times when Arel was abandoned right after birth, and times when he was only seen as a means of gaining money. But this time, Arel has a good feeling about his mother. The maid, China, suggests that Arel's mother, Livana, leave the prince to her care since Livana must be tired. However, Livana expresses concern about whether others will recognize her child as a prince. China reassures her that things might not turn out as she expects. Arel is surprised to hear that he is a prince, but quickly notices that something is wrong. His mother's face looks very sad as she discusses his fate with the maid. Livanna then asks China to speak to her more casually, without the use of honorifics. Livanna asks China to address her as she used to, since they are the only ones in the room, but China hesitates, saying she cannot bring herself to do so. Livanna doesn't mind, understanding that she was also a maid not long ago, doing the same work as China. Meanwhile, our boy finally figures out why his mother seems so gloomy. Livanna explains that Arel is considered a prince because he carries the blood of the emperor. However, in reality, Arel is far from a glorious life, as he also has Livanna's humble blood in his veins. She fears that one day Arel will blame her for the fact that he has neither the right to inherit anything nor any power in the castle. China tries to reassure Livanna, saying that such a thing would never happen. Livanna, however, is fully aware of what the other concubines and nobles say about her, and she knows that because of her, Arel will never have anything in this place. She apologizes to Arel, who is still a newborn, as tears begin to flow from her eyes. Seeing this, our boy does his best to wipe away his mother's tears with his tiny baby hands. Livanna feels happy, believing that Arel understands everything and is doing his best to comfort his sad mother. This is the least our boy can do, as he cannot yet speak. Arel wishes he could tell his mother that he is fine with his position and that he does not care about not having the right to be a successor or lacking followers. Moreover, he knows that the powerful nobles will not pay attention to him, and even the royal family will not be concerned about him because he intends to live the life of a prince who remains indifferent to his surroundings. To Arel, this makes his 101st life the perfect opportunity to live peacefully and easily. The blood of the emperor and a royal concubine who was once a maid runs through Arel's veins, making it a unique combination. A life where our boy can stay far away from power struggles, enjoying himself to the fullest. As long as royal blood flows through Arel's veins, even a minimum standard of living will be guaranteed. As our boy dreams of his royal life, his mother, Livanna, remarks that the future of this child, who knows nothing of the harsh circumstances he was born into, seems so bright. Yet Livanna feels saddened by the fact that she lacks the power to protect the bright smile of her only son. Arel understands why his mother is worried. In a world full of aristocrats, where lineage and class are paramount, the life of a prince without succession rights is nothing but a potential scapegoat. Having no claim to succession means there is no future and no followers, and without power, he lacks the means to protect himself. This means that the only thing awaiting him, after being completely exploited, is death. However, even though Arel cannot speak, he tries to reassure his mother that he will be all right, as he was a seasoned pro in his previous lives, having navigated countless dangerous situations. 3 months pass quickly, and Arel is seen sleeping in his crib when his mother comes to check on him. She finds his sleeping face adorable, resembling that of an angel. Yet, she feels sadness because she had hoped Arel would have hair like the emperor's, which might make him more favorably regarded by the emperor. As Livanna worries about Arel, her maid China enters the room and informs her that the carriage is ready. Livanna responds that she will be there shortly, giving baby Arel a goodbye kiss and telling him to behave well since she will return soon. Once the door closes behind Livanna, Arel decides to stop pretending to be asleep and wakes up, confident that his act must have convinced both his mother and China. However, our boy realizes that he should not waste any time or make any noise, as China will soon enter his room. She is usually on a 5-second standby to keep a close eye on Arel, who is still a baby. Arel decides to act quickly, knowing he won't have much time alone like this. This task is crucial for his future, and he also feels that he should enjoy his life to the fullest, especially since he was born into the royal family as a prince, even if only in name. Our boy understands that to move around freely, the most important thing he needs is power. In every world he has lived in, strength is the ultimate truth. As long as he is strong, no one will dare oppose him. Moreover, Arel did not spend his past 100 lives in vain. During his 30th reincarnation, he created a unique training method called Origin Creation Qigong. This method allows him to build strength even with a baby's body. It is a divine technique that enables Arel to cultivate both his innate qi and origin qi simultaneously. Most importantly, our boy can practice this technique even with the body of a baby, An ordinary person would never suspect that Arel is training. After mastering this method, Arel would have the equivalent of 60 years worth of inner chi by the time he reaches the age of 10, and 180 years worth by the time he is 20. Moreover, after the initial stages, Arel would no longer have to focus as intensely because, once he accumulates enough chi, he can continue to practice even while in the nanny's arms. Our boy notices that the amount of chi he has managed to store is minimal, so he decides to speed things up, aware that his nanny could enter at any moment. He begins slowly moving the accumulated chi to his brain's frontal lobe, using the electrical stimulation of his body's energy and nerves. This allows him to feel the chi expanding throughout his body. Arel's head becomes overwhelmed with heat as the energy reaches a point where he can no longer control it, causing him to let out a loud scream. This startles the nanny, who rushes back into the room in just 5 seconds. Fortunately, our boy finishes his task within that short span of time, just as China arrives to check on him. China enters the room, possibly to change Arel's diaper, but Arel silently wishes she wouldn't touch him. Even a small touch could dissipate all the energy he has accumulated so far. Fortunately, China decides not to change the diaper and leaves the room, thinking that Arel's worried expression might mean he had a nightmare. As she exits, Arel feels his body start to burn like a human thermal power plant. The reason China didn't notice anything unusual is because Arel was able to suppress the amplification for a moment, but now he is overheating. Our boy knows that a fever can be very dangerous for babies, so he tries his best to control it, though he has no idea how long his body can withstand it. Determined not to live his life at someone else's mercy, he decides to push himself to the level of chi manipulation by using the origin qigong technique. Everything Arel is doing now is aimed at living a comfortable life. As our boy accelerates to the level of chi manipulation, he lets out a loud scream, even louder than before. The sound is so intense that it echoes through the room and reaches China, who is walking away from Arel's room. China hears Arel's scream and rushes back to his room to check on him, but she is surprised to find him sleeping peacefully. However, there is one thing she finds strange. Arel is sweating profusely. She decides that he will be fine after a nice, refreshing herbal bath, so she heads to the kitchen to prepare it. Meanwhile, our boy is relieved, not only because China didn't notice anything unusual, but also because he has achieved the prefrontal lobe hyperevolution. After China gives Arel the herbal bath and changes his clothes, she is pleased to see that he seems to be in good condition. She notices that Arel is moving his arms normally, which puts her at ease. Our boy believes that China has no affinity for mana, as she cannot detect that he is using the chi from his awakened frontal lobe to sense and absorb mana from the atmosphere. In other words, Arel is getting stronger just by eating, sleeping, and idling around, which makes him quite happy. If he keeps progressing at this rate, he knows his future will be promising. He believes that by the time he turns 3, he will have accumulated a considerable amount of inner chi, and by the time he reaches 10, the number of individuals capable of killing him might be counted on one hand. China notices that Arel is continuously looking up, which makes her curious if there is something above that catches his interest, but she cannot understand what fascinates him. She does know one thing, though. She likes it when Arel smiles. What China doesn't realize is that our boy is happy because he is gradually getting stronger while in his nanny's arms and is looking forward to the day he can live idly as a prince. He hopes for that day to come quickly. 5 months have passed since Arel was born, and thanks to the effects of the origin creation qigong technique, both his physical abilities and inner chi are developing faster than those of his peers. Arel is automatically accumulating chi every day. Although he is crawling on the floor at the moment, once he has built up enough chi, something like levitating would be a walk in the park for him. As our boy is playing by himself, he is surprised when he starts to feel himself levitating, but he soon realizes that it is his mother who has lifted him up. She is happy to see Arel having fun and wants to give him a rattle as a gift. At first, Arel is not enthusiastic about the rattle, but when he notices his mother's disappointment, he quickly begins playing with it, giving the proper reaction. This puts Livana at ease. She is glad to see her son enjoying her gift and decides to play with Arel a bit longer, while her maid, China, finds Arel's reactions to be the cutest. Livana wonders who Arel takes after with his adorable behavior, while our boy thinks he clearly takes after his mother. He decides to cherish these moments, knowing that being adored is a luxury that can only be truly enjoyed in childhood. As Arel continues playing with his mother, he suddenly feels hungry, but being so small, he has no other way to express it except by crying. So, Arel begins to cry to let his mother and China know that he is hungry. China quickly catches on and informs Livanna that Arel might need to be fed. As Livanna feeds our boy, she asks China about the whereabouts of her maid, Anna. China replies that Anna quit just yesterday because the palace's budget was smaller this year, which saddens Livanna, as Anna was a bright and smart girl. Our boy realizes that the palace's financial situation isn't good, something he had overheard from the maids while playing in his crib. They were discussing how they needed to reduce the amount of food on Lady Livanna's table while still considering nutrition. However, they couldn't do much because of the low budget. Arel had initially thought it was just the maids complaining, but now he understands that the situation is more serious than he assumed. He hadn't realized things were this bad, especially since his mother is still a royal concubine, and he expected there wouldn't be any problems in her palace. But Arel thinks the main problem is that his mother was born a maid, even though she gave birth to a prince. Livanna, however, is simply glad they are not starving, while China considers them fortunate that they don't have to reduce the number of soldiers. China then points out that their biggest challenge will be the winter, especially now that they have the prince, since they can't grow anything during that season. Our boy, still satisfying his hunger, hadn't realized things were so dire that they wouldn't be able to survive on their own. He assumed he wouldn't freeze to death simply because he was a prince. China suggests they should seek help from the emperor, but Livanna replies that she hasn't been able to see him at all because he is a busy person. Our boy realizes that the reason his mother often went out in the carriage was to see the emperor, but Arel finds it strange that Livanna wasn't able to see him even once. After all, no matter how merciless an emperor may be, that kind of behavior is unacceptable, which makes our boy wonder if there are forces, like the emperor's close aides or other concubines, keeping his mom in check and isolating her. Hearing all this makes Arel feel sorry for his poor mom, and he starts crying, as if trying to tell the maid that he wants to go to Livanna. China quickly understands and hands Arel over to Livanna. Arel decides that, no matter what happens, he will find a way to help his mom, even though, at the moment, he is only good at acting cute and rolling over. As night falls, our boy, sitting in his crib, starts thinking about how he can help his mom get through the winter without worry. He knows they need to address the food problem first, which requires a lot of money. Moreover, they will also need more firewood to keep themselves warm in the snowy weather. Suddenly, Arel comes up with a brilliant idea to solve his mother's problems. As our boy contemplates how he can help his mother get through the winter, Arel's eyes fall on the charcoal lying in the fireplace, sparking an idea. Charcoal is rich in carbon, which means Arel could potentially create a diamond, a valuable jewel made from carbon. Even making just one diamond could solve his problem, given the value of jewelry in this place. Our boy tries to stand up to get out of the crib, but, due to his weak body, he falls back down. Determined, he thinks of another way and remembers that he possesses enough mana to levitate out of the crib. With ease, our boy lifts himself into the air, finding it surprisingly simple, and moves toward the fireplace to transform the charcoal into a diamond. Right now, the charcoal is an important resource for him, even though it's currently only used to heat his room. He considers himself a genius for thinking of making a diamond from charcoal, but decides not to spend the night praising himself. Arel decides to use this time to quickly create a diamond while everyone is asleep, which motivates him for the task. He focuses intently as he combines thermal energy with mana to apply as much pressure as possible to the charcoal. Arel is determined not to hold back and concentrates fiercely on the task, knowing that while he can accumulate mana again, he cannot afford to waste the energy he has gathered so far. He compresses the energy with all his might, akin to zipping a large file with WinRAR, to increase the internal pressure of the charcoal. He endures the pressure, determined not to be pushed out, as he knows that successfully creating the diamond will make his mother happy. As Arel continues to compress, a powerful blast occurs, sending the smoke generated in the process up through the chimney. With that, Arel successfully creates a diamond, which he finds truly beautiful. After completing this challenging task, Arel lies down and begins to think about how to present the diamond he made to his mother. As the sun rises, China enters Arel's room and is surprised to find him crawling out of the crib, as she believes it is not yet possible for him to do so. Concerned that Arel might have slept on the cold floor all night, China picks him up and notices that not only is Arel's adorable face smudged, but the fireplace and carpet are also in disarray. She concludes that Arel must have been playing alone throughout the night. China is further astonished by the mess on the floor, which seems unusual given the age of the palace. She decides to prevent Arel from touching the floor for now. Arel, trying to reassure China, acts as cute as possible, placing his hands over his mouth to make her think he has something in his mouth. China, with her keen senses, notices this and asks Arel to show her what he has in his mouth. China is astonished when a beautifully shiny diamond emerges from Arel's mouth. She gently squishes his cheeks to ensure the object is fully revealed. Curious about where Arel obtained this diamond, she notes that nothing is missing from the treasury she manages and that no such diamond is listed in the palace's records. Despite this, China decides not to dwell on the matter and thanks Arel, who seems eager to present the diamond to her. Meanwhile, Arel wonders whether his mother will appreciate the gift he prepared. Soon after, a parade of wagons arrives at the palace, delivering items that fill the empty kitchen warehouse with groceries and firewood. The storage space becomes so crowded that there is no room for additional supplies, alleviating the palace's concerns. This abundance is made possible by the diamond Arel crafted, which was traded at an exceptionally high price, securing provisions for the next 5 years. Despite this relief, Livanna remains concerned about whether the gem has an original owner. China reassures Livanna that there is no cause for concern, explaining that the castle had been ownerless for nearly 100 years before Livanna took possession, which alleviates Livanna's worries. China further suggests that the discovery of the diamond might be a sign of divine favor upon the prince. While Livanna is uncertain about this notion, she is relieved that their problems have been resolved. Arel crawls over to his mother and grabs her clothing with his tiny hands, conveying that she must persevere until he grows up. He promises that, once that time comes, he will do everything in his power to attract the emperor's attention and resolve any further issues. The fireplace at Livanna's palace burned continuously throughout the winter as the palace's finances stabilized. This financial stability led to improvements in the living conditions of both the master and the servants, which was evident from the transformation of Livanna's once nearly empty dining table, now filled with a variety of dishes. Livanna noticed that the food served to her each morning was more than she could eat on her own and expressed concern about the food provided to the servants. However, China assured her that there was no need to worry about the servants and encouraged Livanna to focus on enjoying the meals on her table. Additionally, Anna, the maid who had been forced to quit due to the palace's poor conditions, was reinstated. This brought joy to Livanna as Anna rejoined her fellow maids, and overall treatment of the servants improved. The most significant change, however, was the transformation in Livanna's demeanor. Her once gloomy face, which Arel finds most beautiful when she smiles, was now radiant. Despite the harshest winter on record, it was the warmest season Arel had ever experienced. The year passes quickly as Livanna and China deliberate over a suitable outfit for Arel. They try on various clothes without reaching a decision, which begins to irritate Arel. This is the first time they have made such a fuss over his outfit, and he grows tired of their indecision. To express his need for rest in a manner befitting a prince, Arel decides to start crying. Hearing his cries, China concludes that Arel wants to sleep, so they promptly dress him and place him in his crib, allowing him to rest peacefully. As China settles Arel into the crib, he overhears her mention that he will be officially recognized as a member of the royal family today. This piques Arel's curiosity about what she means. Meanwhile, Livanna expresses her happiness that Arel has grown up without any issues over the past year, though she remains concerned about whether the emperor will attend Arel's birthday. Although Arel might be a prince only in name, the royal blood still runs through his veins. China reassures Livanna that the emperor has not overlooked Arel. He was simply waiting for the appropriate moment, as misfortunes often befall newborns. Meanwhile, Arel realizes that the earlier fuss was about his birthday. Livanna explains that, while it might not be a grand banquet, the event will officially announce that Arel has inherited royal blood, which pleases her as it means that the rules of the Ernesia royal family will apply to him. Arel, having finally understood why his mother is excited, wonders if the nobles and other members of the royal family will attend, as it is a banquet. This means he might finally meet the emperor, prompting him to start planning something. The banquet begins, and all the guests enjoy the food and the beautiful performances by the violist and the pianist. The banquet is charming, and Arel, who is amazed by the entire setup, thinks that the emperor must have spent a considerable amount of money on such extravagance. Our boy is thoroughly enjoying the grandeur of the banquet and the fancy attire, a novel experience even for someone living his 101st life. Livana and China are pleased to see Arel enjoying himself at the event held in his honor. China realizes that Arel's enjoyment might stem from seeing so many people for the first time. Livana kisses Arel on the cheek and tells him that he is the main character of the evening. Arel notices some ladies gossiping about him and his mother, but chooses to ignore them. What interests him more is the Emperor of Ernesia, Arel Ernesia, Arel's father, who has yet to make an appearance. Arel is eager to see how important the Emperor must be to avoid appearing since Arel's birth. Additionally, Arel is troubled by the fact that the Emperor seems indifferent to the conditions in which Arel and his mother are living. As our boy contemplates how to make his presence known to the Emperor, the royal family of Ernesia, excluding the Emperor, arrives at the banquet, marking the official start of the event with their grand entrance. The pressure from the Queen, who enters with her children, Arel's half-siblings, is palpable. Among them, the Queen's eldest son stands out, followed by the brown-haired girl who seems to still exhibit a somewhat aloof demeanor, accompanied by her 3 younger siblings. Our boy scrutinizes each of them closely but is taken aback when he notices that none of them acknowledge his mother, which incites his anger. Meanwhile, Livana assumes that Arel's reaction is due to the noise and tells him to be patient, even though he is struggling to do so. The atmosphere of the banquet shifts dramatically with the Queen's arrival. Women begin to gossip about the Queen's beauty, noting that she has brightened the entire event with her presence. Meanwhile, our boy feels sympathy for Livana, who, despite her difficulties, is still doing her best to ensure that Arel enjoys himself. However, Arel is taken aback when he notices a sudden change in his mother's expression, which had been calm until now. Curious about the cause of her reaction, Arel scans his surroundings and discovers that the commotion is due to the entrance of the Emperor of Ernesia. Arel is not surprised by the Emperor's appearance, but rather by the sheer amount of energy he is radiating.